Can you guess what I'm saying in this clip? If you can't, then you know exactly what I'm struggling with. But if you can, do it now. And don't tell anyone. In just 2 weeks from now, I'll be taking my level 2 receptive exam in British Sign Language. And if you don't know what receptive means, it's basically listening, but because it's sign language, you don't listen, so we just call it receptive. The exam itself consists of a story broken into 4 parts, and then each part has 3 questions, multiple choice, all in sign language, no English involved. And as of a couple weeks ago, my level of comprehension in BSL is basically... yeah, that just means I don't understand anything. It's going way over my head. I think my level of confidence hit rock bottom around 2 weeks ago when I went to a social event where I met lots of people and we signed all night. And at that time, I was feeling really good about my capabilities because I could sign pretty well, I could communicate, and then people started signing back to me and, you know. So there was a huge discrepancy between my expectations in my abilities and the reality. I remember going home feeling really disappointed in myself and really frustrated, desperate even, thinking that, yeah, I really need to do something about my comprehension. Because whatever this is not working. There's not communication. I'm just communicating one way. That's why over the past 2 weeks, and of course in the next 2 weeks to come, I have devised a very intricate and comprehensive plan to help me improve my receptive abilities. And I think I'm already improving a lot. Now, when I do other past papers and watch other videos, I'm feeling much more comfortable and much less in the dark. So welcome to Rapidly Lingo, my name is Israel, and today I'm going to tell you how I designed this specific plan and tailored it to what I need to improve, and how you can as well. So I'll be honest right away, learning sign language is not like learning any other language. I have made an entire video with that name. But not just in terms of the way you learn it, but also because it's a completely different medium of communication and has different elements that you have to acquire. So the first thing I did when I realized I needed to drastically improve my skills was to break it down into what specific skills I need to hone. So from my experience, there are 3 main building blocks that I have to improve in order to understand British Sign Language. The first one is finger spelling, the second one is lip reading, and the third one is just putting things together. So I'll go through them in detail. So the first one is finger spelling. If you're not aware, finger spelling is a way of representing spoken language within sign language, especially within deaf communities that interact with hearing people a lot. They sometimes need to use a certain concept or a specific word from the spoken language, such as English. So they devise this way, usually a manual alphabet, to represent those English words visually, and that also happens in other sign languages such as Japanese sign, for example. So from my early days of learning BSL, I focused a lot on finger spelling, but mainly on spelling things myself. I've practiced so much that I can spell things really quickly. For example, we can go and I have a very old short video where I fingerspelled, which you can check out over there. But understanding fingerspelling is a completely different story because it's a different skill. You often have to do a lot of guessing because sometimes you don't have any context. So your brain is basically trying to recognize the letters and then convert the letters to words, which is like finding a needle in a haystack. Added to the fact that, English spelling makes no sense. Lots of silent letters and the vowels and consonants are not consistent at all. So there's always a bit of a delay. I have done a lot of practicing in terms of understanding finger spelling. So I feel quite okay if I'm in this finger spelling mode and you spell something to me. I can follow reasonably well. But my problem is when fingerspelling starts unexpectedly, because when someone is telling a story, for example, and they suddenly say, oh, that's my friend Sarah, or for example, I went to this place called Norfolk. My brain is not yet in the mode or in the zone to do this very quick and intensive processing of information, especially when you're focusing mainly on someone's face and mouth instead of their hands. So I need to change my perspective, look at the hands and immediately get what they're saying. So how am I improving this? Well, the obvious answer is to just practice a lot. And if you're learning BSL, you probably are aware of BSL Learning with Mel, which is like the GOAT in terms of teaching BSL on YouTube. And she has a very long playlist of fingerspelling exercises where she does around, I don't know, like 10 words ish per day for like 30 days. It's from a good while ago. It's gold mine of practice. As of now, I can follow her videos really well. I think at her normal speed, I can follow basically everything. So I basically put everything on 1.75 times speed or even 2 times speed. That helps me up the challenge and add some extra headroom, because I know that I need to be extra secure in terms of my fingerspelling skills, so that I can miss a tiny bit and still follow the rest really comfortably. That's why I make it very, very difficult for myself just to, get it down. Even though sometimes I finish watching her videos at 2 times speed and I feel like an absolute god. And then I move on to some video where someone signs like naturally, or some TV show. And then I realize that, they spell even faster than Mel's videos at 2 times speed. So that's not very helpful. But still, that gives me a strong foundation, and that is already probably faster than the spelling that is in my exam. So I have that extra processing power to help with situations where I miss something and can still follow. Another way of adding challenge and helping me acquire the skill better is to simulate situations where I lag behind. Because as I said earlier, sometimes I'm looking at someone's face and then they start fingerspelling and I need to redirect my gaze at their hands and miss like the first letter, and then it's like dominoes falling and I miss everything else. So what I do now when I'm going through Mel's videos, because I haven't gone through all of them yet, is that for one, I let myself be distracted. So when she finishes one word and explains what it means, I let myself mentally relax, or I look at something else, or I think about something else, so that when she starts the next word, I am taken by surprise. I let myself be taken by surprise. So I'm like, oh, oops. And then I realize what I learn is that I can use my peripheral vision to see at least like the first letter, which is kind of crucial in terms of understanding fingerspelling. So I think this has really helped me. Just by literally reenacting situations that I struggle with during my practice. Next, I want to skip over the hardest thing to me and talk about just understanding sign in general, because it is a lot like learning to understand other spoken languages by listening. So if you're in the language learning space for a long time, you might have heard of intensive and extensive listening, and I've been trying to apply those skills to my sign language comprehension as well. So intensive listening, or in this case receptive, I guess, just means using one piece of material to its full potential. So you're not only understanding the content, but also making sure that you understand every single bit and you mine the content for learning material. Like you use that sentence to practice a sentence structure. You look at it more times so that you see what's happening between the different words, how it's put together, or perhaps you can focus on learning the words in that sentence if they're new to you, etc. So now when I use past papers or sample papers for my receptive examination, what I basically do is intensive listening, or again, receptive. Oh, I need to fix my terminology. Am I listening if it's sign language? Could we like use it metaphorically? Who knows? That's a possibility, right? You can talk in sign language, you can speak in sign language. Maybe we can listen in sign language. Anyway, first of all, I do go through the whole thing once first without pausing, so that I can get the feel of how the exam is like and answer all the questions and see like if I can get the answers. But afterwards, I go back to the receptive of the video, the material, and then I mine it for content. So for example, I would pause, I would go back. If I don't understand everything, if I miss fingerspelling, if I miss one sign, I go back again to see why I missed it. Like what in the sign is not clear to me when I'm watching. And then I would repeat like a sentence, for example, several times until it feels slow to me. because I realized that, yeah, when you see something for the first time, it feels very fast. But then when your brain is attuned to the way that the sentence works, it feels much slower. So I get to that level before I move on from that exam material. And if you want to see me doing that live, I have done some BSL receptive exam papers live on this channel before, so click that to see how I did it. Now, extensive listening is when you watch a lot of stuff, or read or listen in terms of spoken languages, but in sign language, watch, and then just don't bother with every detail, but rather focus on getting the message and following the story so that you become more comfortable with the language in general. So I've been trying to watch some TV shows on, well, what was BSL Zone just a few weeks back, but now is Lumo TV. If you are learning BSL, you might have heard of them. Especially, I like documentaries instead of narrative things. So I watch a documentary and then, again, I relax and try to get the gist. And then sometimes I would actually go back and then turn the subtitles on to see what I missed. But in general, I just want to get the gist of it so that, like, I know that on the grand scheme of things, I can follow a story in this language. Sometimes it's just a matter of mindset, because quite often when we are listening in a foreign language in real time, what happens is you miss one thing and then internally you panic and you lose the plot, and then again, like a domino effect, you miss everything else that comes after it. So I'm currently training my brain to not do that, so when I miss one thing, I'm still locked in and I get the rest of the sentence, so I can actually deduce what I missed from that context. So hopefully I get even better at that. But then again, in the exam I actually need the specific details, so I'm not sure how much that helps. But in terms of understanding in general, yeah, I can train my brain to put two and two together without actually giving it much conscious thought, just by getting a gist and then deductions. The last thing, which is the most difficult for me anyway, is lip reading. I don't know about other sign languages, but in BSL, lip reading is kind of crucial. I've asked some friends from Hong Kong, and I think compared to Hong Kong Sign Language anyway, BSL is more dependent on lip reading. And there are several reasons for that. For one, BSL has quite different dialects from like London to Birmingham to Manchester to, I don't know, Scotland, and which means they have different signs for the same thing. And if you have seen the regional sign for a thing, then great, you can follow it. But if you haven't, you can only either deduce it from context or lip read. The second reason is when people don't sign. And there are several reasons that might be the case. For example, some people might not be a very good signer because they're not native, or even if they're native, sometimes they just don't bother to sign because they don't have to. Like among themselves, among deaf people, quite often they can just lip read each other. So they just get lazy because they can once in a while. Or more often when it comes to certain short phrases such as of course or why not. Like I don't even think there is a specific sign for of course. If you find of course in a dictionary, it's just like, and then you mouth of course. So when I'm watching people sign, that's often the stuff that I miss because I'm locked in on the hands and I don't realize they just said, of course. The third reason is sometimes people sign but say basically full sentences in English, because there is the thing called SSE or Sign Supported English, which means basically just representing English using signs. But between this and actual British Sign Language, it's actually kind of a spectrum. Like you can go halfway between them, like with some simplified English grammar, but also kind of following English syntax, something along those lines. And that's sometimes what happens. Like people are signing, which I can follow, but they add extra words that are not necessary in the sign language. And then my brain gets confused because there are more syllables in the mouth than is required for those signs. Like they add off and the, things like that. And last but not least, the reason I said BSL is quite dependent on lip patterns and lip reading is because there are quite a lot of things that have the same like sign, but only differ by meaning through the lip pattern. Most commonly, they are like signs for similar or related ideas, such as foundation, setup, basic. So they kind of like all mean similar things. And in those cases, actually, you could do without the lip patterns, but like the whole thing just becomes slightly more abstract. Another kind of signs like that is signs that depend on fingerspelling letters, such as in BSL we have mother, minute, month, cousin, color, country, comfortable, and most importantly, or most challengingly, sometimes the lip pattern adds additional information that's not in the sign at all. So for example, you might sign 300 or 300 pounds, and you don't have to sign pounds, and you just say it in your lip pattern. At least that's the way that my current teacher does it. I mean, for one, the context would tell you that it's a price, but also I need to be focusing on the lips to get that, oh, it is a price, not just a number. I'm not sure if I've talked about this before, but I think the main reason that I struggle with lip reading is because I didn't grow up speaking English. I feel like if I had, then I would have had a lot of experience just watching people's mouths move. Like even if I was not like actually actively focusing on the mouths, like somehow while I'm watching their faces, the movements in the mouth would have imprinted in my brain somehow, like the different kinds of movements that occur in English or the frequency that they happen. But because in Hong Kong we learn English by reading and writing, and we barely ever speak to English to each other, so I don't have that experience, and now I'm sort of catching up. So how have I been doing that? So one of the first obvious things that I tried is to just watch some videos with the sound off, and then I realized it's not possible because I have too much to catch up. There's too much of a gap between fully understanding someone just from lip reading and me. Like I get nothing. It's again, pow. So I need to again break it down and go back to the building blocks. So I found an app called Lip Reading Academy. I bought the full thing. Thankfully, it's not a subscription. And basically what it does is it explains different kinds of lip movements to you and gives you lots of practice. So for example, the consonants look like this. And those are M, B, and P respectively. And they look the same on the lips because they are the same movement practically. Or in terms of vowels, you have like, so different diphthongs, different vowels combinations. And then the app gives you lots of exercise. You can see the video and then it's like multiple choice, click the right word. Sometimes I do rely on the multiple choice a little bit, but increasingly as I get through the app, as I speed run through the app, I realize that I am actually more able to just hear the word right away when I see the lip pattern. So I feel like it is helping me to a certain extent. And then another crucial skill is to, again, put two and two together, because that's what deaf people do as well, because the lips are not a perfect representation of the sounds, because as I said, m, b, p have the same pattern. So you have to practice using your context and using your deduction skills to get the meaning from the pattern. So one thing I've been doing is just focus on short sentences and phrases instead of like entire like speeches or paragraphs. One specific way that I have tried is to ask my friends for their videos. The reason is everyone speaks slightly differently. Everyone uses their lips and their mouths a bit differently. Like me, I have pretty thick lips, you might have noticed. So as my primary objective beyond the exams is to communicate with my own friends, I figured a good way of doing that is to simply practice using my friends, I suppose. But like if we are talking naturally, it gets awkward to ask them to repeat again and again. So I ask them for videos of themselves speaking without voice so that I can actually loop it and sort of break it down bit by bit and try to put the meaning together from context. So that's what I'm focusing on at the moment. Anyway, that has been my plan to help myself improve my comprehensive skills, and I hope that by watching me described my own plan, you can also get some inspiration for how you can improve your own skills, whatever those skills might be that you need help in. If you like this video, please do give it a like, and you might like my last video where I talked about, again, just off the cuff, about how I've been learning languages lately. Or you can also see that other video where I'm thrown into a completely unfamiliar dialect and try to navigate my way around it. Thank you for watching this one, and I'll see you in the Quebec video, hopefully.